In March 2026, NASA revealed an ambitious new plan for the future of American space exploration. On the surface, it looks like a blueprint for building a permanent base on the moon. But the bigger revelation is what this plan says about NASA itself, because this isn't just a new schedule or a new set of missions. It's a sign that NASA has fundamentally changed into something the world hasn't really seen in decades. An agency that's no longer satisfied with slow progress and vague promises. An agency that's acting like it has something to win. And it does. Over the next decade, a great power competition is going to play out on the moon, especially around the South Pole. The old NASA was on track to lose that contest. The new NASA is trying to change the entire game. Before we get into the details, if you enjoy documentary-style videos about the future of space, the real strategy behind the headlines, and the technology that's about to reshape the next decade, make sure you subscribe now. It helps the channel a lot, and you won't want to miss what happens next. When NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman took the stage at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., there was one simple word projected behind him: ignition. And that word wasn't there to sound cool. It was a message, the beginning of a reset. Isaacman's argument was blunt. For decades, NASA has been spread too thin, trying to make too many groups happy, trying to do too many things at once, and moving so slowly that years of progress were lost along the way. That approach didn't just waste money, it wasted time. And time is the one thing the United States can't afford to lose right now, because this isn't the space race of the 1960s. Back then, the goal was flags and footprints. Now the goal is to stay, to build the first permanent presence on the moon, and to make it impossible to push you out later. That's why this plan matters. And that's also why NASA is changing its approach in a very specific way. It's no longer going to reward ambition in presentations. It's going to reward execution in reality. The first major sign of that shift is the new Artemis schedule, starting with a decision that surprises a lot of people. Under this updated plan, Artemis 3 will not land astronauts on the moon. Instead, it becomes a dress rehearsal mission in low Earth orbit. At first, that sounds like a step backward, but it's actually NASA confronting a major weakness in the old plan. Previously, Artemis 2 was essentially a test flight of the Orion spacecraft, and then Artemis 3 was supposed to jump straight into a lunar landing using an entirely separate and unproven human landing system. That jump was too big, the risks were too high, and it created a situation where the launch date could keep slipping forever, because it was never truly ready. So now, Artemis 3 is designed to prove the most dangerous parts of the plan in the safest place possible. Orion will meet the lander in low Earth orbit. They'll rendezvous and dock. The crew will transfer into the lander and test its life support, communications, and propulsion systems. And if it's possible, they'll even test the new lunar EVA suits inside the lander's airlock for the first time. The point is simple. If something goes wrong in low Earth orbit, you can still solve problems and save lives. And that brings us to the next big change: the lander itself. For years, many people assumed NASA's moon lander would basically be a lunar version of SpaceX Starship. Now, that's no longer guaranteed. Isaacman has confirmed that Blue Origin is back in the race alongside SpaceX with its Blue Moon lander. And one or both of these vehicles could be tested for Artemis 3, depending on who can actually be ready in time. That is a huge cultural shift. Even SpaceX is being put on notice. Winning a contract years ago doesn't automatically guarantee you the landing. In this new approach, only one thing matters: execution. NASA's deadline for Artemis 3 has been moved up to 2027. After that, the pace accelerates fast. Once the lander is confirmed, the winner is expected to move at a near relentless speed. NASA expects an uncrewed lunar landing test within months, and then a completed design ready for Artemis 4. Artemis 4 is now scheduled for early 2028, and that's when American astronauts return to the lunar surface, landing in the South Pole region. But like Isaacman emphasized, this is not about a single dramatic moment. It's about proving a permanent commitment, so NASA plans to land astronauts again the same year, with Artemis 5 scheduled before the end of 2028. That sounds overly ambitious until you compare it to NASA's peak era. After Apollo 11, NASA returned to the moon again, with Apollo 12 just 120 days later. This new plan is trying to bring back that tempo. not necessarily every few months, but consistently. NASA wants a new rhythm where a crew arrives on the moon about once every 6 months. And at that point, the focus shifts from visits to infrastructure. This is where another major change becomes clear. The Lunar Gateway, the planned space station orbiting the moon, is no longer the priority. Surface operations come first. NASA says the work done on Gateway won't be wasted. Hardware already developed will be repurposed into the design of the first surface base. The base itself is planned as a 7-year construction effort, with NASA targeting a budget of $20 billion to make it real. And the plan is broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 runs from 2026 to 2028. Its main goal is to secure reliable access to the moon with a high launch cadence. NASA's target in Phase 1 is aggressive: 25 missions in the first 3 years, with 21 of those being lunar landings. Some will be basic missions, but most are focused on testing technologies that make long-term operations possible. One of the biggest problems they have to solve is the moon's day and night cycle. A lunar day is long. The base will experience about 2 weeks of sunlight, then roughly 2 weeks of darkness. During that darkness, temperatures can drop below -200 degrees Celsius. Without heat, equipment can freeze solid, and electronics often don't just wake up when the sun returns. So NASA plans to experiment with radioisotope thermal generators using the natural heat from radioactive decay to keep important systems from freezing. Then there's one of the more radical ideas in the plan: rocket drones. NASA has a concept vehicle called Moonfall. It's inspired by the Ingenuity helicopter on Mars, but instead of propellers, it uses small rocket thrusters to move around. Each drone can fly for around 150 seconds in a single hop and travel up to 50 kilometers. The goal is to reach dangerous or hard-to-access locations, like mountaintops and crater edges, without putting larger vehicles at risk. Phase 1 also includes the deployment of the Viper rover. It's a golf cart-sized rover that has been built and tested and has been waiting for years. Under this plan, 2027 is finally the year it goes. VIPER will arrive on a Blue Origin lander and begin mapping the South Pole for signs of water ice and other valuable materials, including hydrogen, oxygen, and rare earth metals. NASA views this as lunar prospecting, because in the long run, knowing where those resources are located could decide whether a base can survive. VIPER will be joined by 2 lunar terrain vehicles, one for astronauts to drive and one autonomous. Each rover could cover up to 900 kilometers of lunar surface. These are not just exploration tools, they're work vehicles used to move equipment and prepare ground for construction. Above them, NASA plans a new set of lunar communications and observation satellites, designed to support continuous streaming of data, with throughput up to 500 megabytes per second. They also provide ongoing views of the lunar surface from orbit. And importantly, NASA wants these vehicles equipped with high-quality cameras that can live stream their missions back to Earth, so the public can watch what's happening as it happens. That leads into Phase 2, which runs from 2029 to 2032. This is the transition into building real infrastructure for a moon base. Phase 2 involves 27 launches and 24 landings. It includes the first permanent habitation systems and a new set of rovers that go beyond exploration. NASA is talking about excavation in this phase, machines that can dig, move rock, level ground, and prepare trenches for power cables and pipelines. It's the kind of work you do when you're no longer visiting a place, you're settling it. One of the most important vehicles in Phase 2 is a pressurized mobile habitat being developed by Japan's space agency in partnership with Toyota. It's a massive rover, around 15,000 kilograms, effectively an apartment on wheels. Astronauts inside will be able to live comfortably, even in short sleeves, and travel at about 3.5 kilometers per hour for days. The rover is expected to last 10 years and operate for up to 150 hours in total darkness. Phase 2 also demands more power than ever. NASA plans 2 sources: solar energy, with panels mounted high on poles to capture light, connected to large battery systems for storage, and nuclear power, with fission reactors that generate electricity for multiple assets at once. By the end of Phase 2, NASA believes the moon will have the infrastructure needed for people to live there for extended durations. Then comes Phase 3, beginning in 2033 and continuing beyond. That's when NASA aims for permanent habitation of the Artemis moon base. NASA projects that a rotating crew of 4 people can live on the moon for 28 days per mission. Multiple connected habitat modules similar in concept to a space station like the ISS, but built on the lunar surface. The habitat is powered by its own nuclear generator and supported with about 8,000 kilograms of food, water, and air, delivered every month. And outside the base, NASA begins the next step, using the moon itself as a resource. This includes extracting water from ice in shadowed craters and splitting it into oxygen to breathe and hydrogen to use as fuel. It includes experiments with 3D printing, using lunar dust to create a cement-like building material for more permanent structures. NASA admits what they are attempting is close to impossible, but that's what makes it strategic. China is willing to attempt nearly impossible things too, and that's the real context for this plan. Good enough is no longer good enough, not if the goal is to lead. But in the end, NASA says the moon base isn't the only objective. The deeper purpose is inspiration, proving in a way people can see and feel that big achievements are still possible. That the next generation of scientists and engineers should aim for the impossible because they might actually reach it. NASA's job is to lead by example, and for the first time in a long time, it looks like it's trying to do exactly that. Ignition wasn't just a word on a screen. It was a signal that the pace is changing, the stakes are rising, and the future is being treated like something you have to build, not just talk about.